run with the domestication topic.
That's good.
I think that's a pretty good one. So, and very pertainable to what's going on right now.
Yeah, I would say just relevant too in like the conversations that we've had recently. So.
Yeah. Well, and we're live. Welcome to Awakening Warriors podcast.
Episode
Oh, shit! I didn't wear my shirt.
9.
Fucking retarded. Anyways, well, I'm wearing this shirt now, but she's just gonna have to take hers off so we can see it.
You can see it.
Anyways, that's why I got the stupid shirts, or one of the reasons why I got the shirts. Anyways, so yeah, how was our week? Good.
Long for me.
Yeah, it was
Busy.
pretty. It was pretty long for me because just being out of town and all the drive time and shit. So I felt like it was a long and kind of unproductive weekend in the ways that I like to be productive. So, but here we go with this new upcoming week. So, well, today we're talking about the domestication of society. So, which is a super interesting topic, and a lot of people I don't even think really recognize, like, generationally, if that's a word, we're getting more and more domesticated, right? Like, so if you, like, think about animals, for instance, and how you domesticate them, it's not like you just walked into the wild and you picked up a wolf and was like, you're going to obey and do everything that I want you to do, right?
Do tricks and stay
Yeah.
in the place
Sit,
where I live.
stay, don't eat my food, all that shit. And even to this day, there's some breeds that are harder to break than others. Just like horses, for instance. Horses are very hard to break animals. They don't like to be controlled. And same, like labs are a really very obedient dog.
Golden retrievers.
Golden retrievers, yeah. But if you get a pit bull or any like a husky, huskies are horrible as far as being able to like control them.
Yeah,
So,
their instincts and like that side of things are so very strong.
yeah, exactly. And so that's why we don't have like lions as pets, right? Is because it's not practical to domesticate them. Like we could domesticate those animals just as well as we could domesticate dogs and cats, but there's not really any benefit to it, and it's going to be a lot of work for very little reward. Like horses.
And that's just like mean, I think. Like, let them live their lives. And clearly we've gotten to a point where we domesticate things, or we wouldn't have dogs and cats in our house and birds and...
Yeah,
but,
and, horses, of course, you can obtain a horse or a mule or whatever else, and you can break them. There's a reason why they call break them, and then you force them to work. So, and to a degree, there's nothing wrong with that as long as you're treating them kindly and compassionately with love and just treating them well in general. So, because being undomesticated is also kind of a harsh life, like to a degree, because, like our dogs and cats, they get fed every day. They don't have to go out and hunt for shit, right? They know it's food time. They get fed whenever they're, at morning and noon and night, whatever. And they just show up and they get fed and watered and loved and taken care of and everything else. So, and watching society, that's what's happening to us, like through and through. So this is obviously going to be a slightly different topic and probably pretty controversial for a lot of people because of they're not going to like what they hear.
Well, I think some of it's going to be fact. Like, we're just going to flat out be able to see, like, this is how things were then, this is how things now, but obviously we're going to have, like, various opinions about some of it that I think is where there may be some controversy.
Yeah. Well, there's controversy in everything, so, can't make everybody happy. Even in facts, And any facts are up in the air too, because depending on your experience, they might not be factual. So
I guess that's true. There's like a certain example specifically, and we've talked about this just recently, but like the farm example, and there's definitely people in the world now that still have that experience, that still raise animals and have all the like hardship kind of that come with farms, or
talking like Amish people and shit.
or Amish. Like people in general just have farms, and there's a lot more work and like backbreaking stuff that goes with that in comparison to like having an office job and
yeah.
So yeah, some of that I guess like is where I was thinking was like in the past, like that was a lot of people's experiences. Like people raised their own animals and their food and grew their food and all of those things, but there are still people that do that. So I guess
Yeah. So let's jump right into it. The way I see society going, every generation we get weaker and weaker and more pathetic as far as mental strength, being able to take care of ourselves, because we're so reliant on everything. Mm-hmm. Imagine like the food chain being, the food supply chain being fucked up. Like, where are you going to go get food? Like, you're screwed. Most people have no way of producing their own food, For me, I'm not very set up and prepared for it. I don't have cows and chickens and a garden and everything else. We have a small garden in the summer just to practice, half-ass practice, and to do it and have fresh veggies, and it's like because it's good for the soul, in my opinion. But we don't go all out. I'm not specifically overly prepared for some crazy shit. What happens if the electricity goes out? How do you store your fucking food? Obviously oxygen and cold and everything else, so you could bury it and whatever, But overall, you can just see society getting weaker and weaker and more dependent on others, because that's the key, like, and when you're domesticated, you're dependent, and that's how the greater powers to be want you. They want you weak, and they want you dependent on them. They don't want you mentally strong. What was that fucking concept that I wrote down? I was thinking about doing a podcast on it, but an intelligent society, you can't control an intelligent society, So, like, if you think about public schools, the public school system, it's a joke. I just wish I would have fucking quit so much sooner. Like, because I never did anything. I cheated my way all the way through high school, and it was so easy to just cheat and maintain a fucking 3.4 or whatever I did.
Well, the crazy thing is, like, looking back to that type of education system was in place to create robots, essentially, like drones, because they needed employees, and so they're like, come to this school, learn how to do all these things that we tell you, do it this way, and like there literally has been like no change to that in all of this time. And
people accept it. So let's say, for instance, that happened around the Henry Ford time, right?
Yeah, for assembly line.
1900s, early 1900s. So, okay, cool. That happened. And then people will probably like, whoa, what's this going on? What is all this, Like, this is weird, And then they were like, well, little Timmy, you're going to school today, And granted, they had school, one school, other schools. Yeah. Before then even. But like, the mass concept of school, which is currently government run, right? So, there's a fucking problem, right? So, they develop schools, and then they send the kids to the schools, and, who determines what they learn? The government. The government has a curriculum that they decide, okay, we're going to teach you fucking math. Most of the math you're not even going to fucking use. I don't use anything besides, addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. That's all I use. I don't use fucking algebra, geometry. I could. I'm not saying geometry is a bad thing.
I will say too, like, that's your experience, because there are people that clearly are using way more, like...
The majority, though, of people. How often do you use your shit?
Well, I don't. I didn't. That's why I stopped with math. I didn't take any math classes in my entire college career. So, like, for me, that made very much sense that I wasn't.
Then you tested out because you technically had to take one.
Right. Yeah. But I didn't take any classes.
Yeah. But still, that's, you have to take one typically, unless you test out. But either way, the point is, like, the majority, and these are going to be generalizations. There's a lot of generalizations, so don't get hung up on the generalizations. I thought about a concept the other day, actually today or yesterday. Generalizations, the reason people have a problem with them is because they're not politically correct. That's the only fucking reason people have a problem with generalizations.
Well, and I'll just say for you, when you generalize, you're speaking from your experience, which is not everybody's experience.
Yeah.
Regardless, I totally agree with you in the sense that, like, a lot of what people learn in public school, and you see it all the time. You see memes on Facebook and all these things that people, like, all this stuff I learned, I never use. And you hear it from people still in school now. Like, they're just, it's busy work. It's just like...
Yeah, they're just trying to fucking fuck you up. They're trying to fuck your head up, you know? Because your earliest years from, you know, I don't know what age you go to school. Kindergarten, so, like, 7? 5, 6. I don't fucking know, excuse me. But a very young age. So then they get a hold of your fucking kids for 8 hours of the day, and basically they brainwash them and cause them to be in an unnatural circumstance. You know, like, it's not natural for a kid to be inside for 8 hours sitting at a desk. Not to mention, let's talk about what they feed them, you know? Like, that's fucked up. So we fostered my nephew for, I don't know, 3 months, I don't know,
somewhere around
a while. But anyways, when, and school wasn't really going on, but, so I guess technically, I don't even know, yeah, I'd go to school with him occasionally, and drop him off or whatever else. And so I'm sitting there, and he gets his breakfast. It's a fucking chocolate milk. So, one, milk, not good for you. Not the way they have you drink it. 2, the milk is therefore loaded with a shit ton of sugar. And then he has a fucking brownie the size of, like,
his head.
Yeah. I'm like, Jesus Christ, what the fuck? Really? And then
he, especially him, he's a kiddo who can't sit still in general. So.
Yeah, he's a lot like me, you know. He moves and he's antsy and he's got a lot of energy to fucking, you know, release. So you just pump this kid first thing in the morning, like, with at least 50 grams of sugar. Or milligrams or whatever.
Which is, like, over what a grown man's supposed to have in a day, right?
Yeah, it's double what a grown woman's supposed to have. I'm pretty sure it's like 25 grams of sugar, which is obviously really low, and a lot of that stuff's bullshit, you know, because they're just like baseline. I mean, I'm fucking overweight according to the BMI shit. So keep in mind the whole, like, we could go into the whole medical system and how that's a fucking joke. But back to the whole domestication side of things. Okay, so cool. And then they send them, you know, they send you to school. They give you a shitty diet, and then they make you sit down in school and learn about total bullshit. Half of it's fucking lies. Everything in history is pretty much a lie. You know, like, why even show up? And then they teach you about shit that you don't even necessarily give a shit about, like math and everything else, like algebra and crap. What else? English, you know. Like, to a degree, I understand. Like, obviously, you have to have a baseline, right?
Right. You need to be able to read and write.
But after, I'd say you can learn what you need to learn within 2-3 years at the most. At the most, 2-3 years. Like, all right, here's how to, you know, make a sentence. This is pronoun, noun, blah, 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 you know, just a general concept of what's going on, you know. And the people that have, like, oh, man, this is great. I love pronouns and, you know, making sentences and shit. Like, I like writing or whatever, or art, or, you know. If I took an art class, I dropped out of it because I was like, dude, I'm going to fucking fail this class. Like, I was in it for, like, a week, and I'm just like, dude, I'm not going to do good. I'm like, I'm screwed. So I just quit. I just, like, screw it. I'm not going to pass this class. I have no artistic ability, you know. And she probably would have passed me. She was pretty, like, do liberal type of thing. So, you know, as long as I was putting in effort, which is fair. But I was just like, dude, this is not good. So, anyways, then they do all that to you. Okay, so they had your kids for 5 days a week for 8 hours a day. And you don't know a fucking thing what they're teaching them, you know? They're pumping in shitty food diet, so they're just poisoning your kids. They're poisoning your kids' body, and they're poisoning your kids' minds, you know? 100%. And then, you know, so guess what? You're just they basically domesticated your kid at that point, you know? Like, they stole all their fucking dreams, all, like, you know, the things that were supposed to, you know, be natural to them. and basically stole it and brainwashed them and indoctrinated them to the highest degree. So then those people become, young adults. So we'll say, 18 years old. And then they're so stupid at that point, they decide they can't fucking do math, and they decide, oh gee, let me go to college, right? And then that's a whole nother, even deeper indoctrination thing. And then we're talking about, indentured servitude, because these fools are going into college having no idea anything about finance and money, and they're driving themselves into fucking tens of thousands of dollars of debt.
Because it's what you do.
Because it's what we do. It's because that's what my parents said and blah, blah, blah. It's my teacher said. When they're too fucking stupid and broke to, have a happy, joy-filled life. And, so you listen to these buffoons and you go get yourself into fucking $100,000 worth of debt or whatever, and you're paying on it for years and years,
Yeah, for a long time.
You're supposed to be paying on your shit for like 26 years. Okay, so you're out of school by the time you're like, let's say, I don't know, 26? You were out of school by 26 probably?
Yeah.
I mean, technically you got your 4-year degree plus 2 years. We'll just say 25. And then you got another 25 years of paying on your debt. So you're not have your shit done until you're fucking 50? Really? That's insane. That's stupid. So I just don't understand how people are letting this happen.
Well, to bring it back to the domestication, because then at that point, when you have debt, you are reliant
slave.
and you're a slave to somebody else, because you owe this big chunk of change, because college obviously is not inexpensive, and you have chains. You're tied down to that. You're tied down to these people. And then especially looking at the payment plans and the interest and all of that, the goal is to not to keep you going. It's insane.
And the funny thing is, the reason why college is so expensive is because the governments will back those debts. That's why.
Oh, right.
So college used not to be expensive. So you got to know your history, and you got to know actually how this shit works. Otherwise you're a brain dead fool and you have no idea what's going on. And you'll just jump into fucking hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of debt, and your payment is literally a fucking house payment. Mm-hmm. Okay, so
and that's just looking at my graduate program.
Yeah, and I'm not saying college is totally useless, right? Let's make this clear, because college has a time and a place,
Well, especially for certain professions.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
We found ourselves in a point in time where, like you said, people aren't thinking things through, and they're just doing it because that's what we do.
Yeah.
And going into school not knowing what they want to do and wasting their time there and spending their money there, and instead of thinking things through and not having that chunk of debt if it's not necessary and it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, and you're listening to somebody who went through
7 years of higher education.
7 years of higher education and acquired her master's.
Right.
So she has her master's. I went literally for a fucking semester, and I was like, this is retarded. The only reason I even did it in the first place was because my choice was either to pay my mom rent, an extreme amount of rent, her house payment, or to go to school. I'm like, all right, well, let's try this school shit. Let's just, let's see how it is. Because I knew college was going to be different. And if I cheated my way through high school and, dicked off in high school, I'm like, that was so easy. I hated it, but I'm like, it wasn't hard. I'm like, it really wasn't challenging at all. And so I went to college for a semester, and I was like, well, this sucks because, you can't cheat as much, because there's different tests and everything else and whatever, it's more complicated. And I mean, I did all right for the amount of effort that I put in, but it just wasn't for me. I just hated it. It's not for a lot of people. The problem is, society, friends, my friends are going to college, so I'm going to go to college. My parents push me to college.
At this point, this group think of the majority of people think, and I think where that came from was looking back at generations, was there was an understanding or a thought, a belief that we didn't have this, because thinking about in the past, people couldn't go to college as often as they do now, for whatever reason. I don't know if that's finances. I don't know. It wasn't just well known. Generally, people back in the day that went to college were more well off, had more opportunity, those types of things. And so when those people had kids and then things started becoming more readily available, they're like, well, if you go and do this thing, like, you'll be able to have more than us, you'll have that opportunity to have more than us. And then that just continued to a point where, like, going to school no longer even made a difference because everybody's going to school. So there was a point where, like, going to college set you very much apart from other people.
Yeah.
But now, like, you're part of the anomalies if you don't go to college.
Yeah, but that was a short-lived thing. I mean, I'd say 30, 40 years maybe.
Yeah, probably.
At the most. And then
that's
after
why I think
that,
even, like, a generation or two maybe.
Yeah.
That, like, rapidly.
Yeah, but
shifted.
It changed so fast. And, you know, and that's the plan, right? The plan is to domesticate you, get you into a shit ton of debt. Notice, college debt is not forgivable.
Right.
And all other debt is. Which, to a degree, I 100% agree with. I don't think any debt should be technically... You can't fucking bankrupt your...
You made a choice.
Oh, yeah, you made a choice. Pay your fucking shit, you know? Like, I didn't spend it. You know, if you get... If they go through this thing, right? You know? Which I'm, you know, whatever about. Because either way, it's gonna fuck us. It's gonna fuck everybody. Like, you can't debt forgiveness, like student loan forgiveness. There's gonna be, if you know anything about economics, like, you can't just forgive trillions of dollars worth of debt and expect that there's not gonna be natural consequences for that shit, right? But let's say they do forgive it, you know, and we'll have to deal with those natural consequences. Now, why do I have to pay my fucking truck off and you get to, you know, use your, you know, have your college debt paid off? Like, I get punished because you made a fucking stupid choice to go to college, and then you could say, oh, well, you know, she's bettering the world for that. Well, from my understanding, you better the world by producing value. And because I have that truck and I'm able to utilize that truck's capabilities, I am therefore providing value to society, you know? So it's just like, well, what the fuck, you know? That's bullshit that you would have your debt forgiven. And like I said, I'm in a position where I'm connected to you, so it's just like...
It would benefit you in that way.
Benefit is a loose term.
Immediately.
Yeah, yep. So, I mean, yeah, it is what it is. So either way, we're going to have consequences for that.
And so just bring it back to, like, the domestication piece, like, that is a huge backing behind, like, let's just get all these young people whose brain isn't even fully developed to make all these really big decisions and take on all this debt, and then when they're there in this space, we have the ability, because school is teaching you what to think, not how to think. We are full of a society of people that do not know how to think for themselves. And I'm totally one of the, like, I was one of those people. I will totally own that. Like, I was just blindly making decisions, not thinking things through, just believing what I was told, like, 100%. But now being on the other side of it and able to, like, see clearly some of these things, like, we very much are full of a society that doesn't know how to think for themselves or how to think in general. Yeah. And that leads to, like, the domestication piece. Like, we are like, what are the cows in the slaughter or whatever. Like, we are just, as a society, like, walking down that, like, death trap and not even seeing it.
Yeah, yep. Because, you know, for me, like, it made sense for me because I'm just different. There's a lot of guys like myself that are just like, this is stupid type of thing.
Yeah.
But, so anyways.
And it goes well beyond, which that meant, like, that piece is huge, like, your brain and how you think, but even, because I think we've been talking about that piece a lot right now, but also looking at us, like, physically as a society, our health and like those types of things.
If you walk around, you know, like, people that are domesticated are typically overweight. They're pretty much they're not always overweight, but, like, that's a good sign that you've been domesticated, pretty much.
And, oh, shoot, hold on, sorry, I just had a thought, now it's gone. Thinking, too, about, because the dependent piece, that's what came to mind, too, is, like, health in general. Like, we put this really important thing to being a human being, like, our health is important, our body is the vessel that allows us to be here on this earth, and we just, like, place it in, like, this external big pharma, doctors, all these things. As in the United States, I will say, obviously, Eastern medicine is very different, but we live in the United States, so
that's mystic foo-foo shit.
Right, like, that's woo-woo.
That's woo-woo.
And, like, as a society, we are generally so dependent on like, well, the doctor said this and they told me to take this pill and they blah blah blah, and we're just like putting this like huge emphasis on human beings, like they are at fault too. Yeah. Like,
let's
just
talk about cigarettes and fucking asbestos and
cocaine
else.
Like they literally used to prescribe these things, cigarettes, cocaine.
But I'm just supposed to trust these fools now. Oh, it's different now, their science is better. No, their science is bought and paid for. That's what it is. It's as simple as that.
And so they're feeding us these things that make it sound good, make it seem good, like, and part of that, like looking at like the chain of events, like, because most of us have come through public school and have come through the higher education, and so we've already had this whole like big chunk of our lives where we're just eating what we're fed, and then they continue in other ways. So like we're no longer in school, but you are in this job that you hate, and you are really sick, so take this pill that's going to give you all of these other side effects, and then when that's an issue, come to us and we'll give you another one, like, and these are the pieces, like the domestication pieces. Like they want us to be good boys and girls and eat what they give us and pop the pills that they give us and do what they say, and as long as you do all of that, then you're fine. And then when you have people that start questioning things and looking at things, they're the ones that are like, whoa, you guys are weird, you have a problem, like, when you like have somebody, I guess, who like is aware of the domestication, especially for you, like we've had this conversation too around the word like savage. Like, human beings are
animals.
Right. And we have been, like, we're not walking around, like, killing people. I mean, people do, obviously. But, like...
That's not a definition of a savage. Nowhere in the word savage does it say kill.
And I think that comes from, again, like this connotation of the word.
Yeah.
And, like, think even about right Indians, there, like, that was a conditioned thing for me to say. So
let's look at the fucking definition of savage. It's an adjective. An animal or force of nature. Fierce, violent, and uncontrolled. There's nothing wrong with being fierce, right? There's nothing wrong with being violent. When needed, when necessary. Absolutely. Because, I mean, if you look at, nature, everything in nature is violent.
So
and we are nature. Like, we can fucking sit in these pretty ass houses, but at the end of the day, we're still nature.
Just looking at, like, the wind, super small example, but it was super windy here last night. Like, who knows what damage was done by the wind? Like,
And then we've got uncontrolled. I don't see any problem with being fierce, violent, and uncontrolled. Like, what's Jordan Peterson's, what's that fucking quote? Basically said there's nothing good about weak men, basically.
There's no valor in being...
Yeah, a weak man. Because they're, weak men lie, weak men steal, weak men cheat.
They're greedy.
Yeah, they're greedy because, they are fucking weak. But a strong man can own up to his shit. A strong man does not have to be, he doesn't have to avoid conflict because he can deal with the conflict because, and so on and so forth. So. And
that's another piece, I think, of, like, the domestication, just looking at, like...
Oh, beta males?
Well, yeah, that's what... Beta males specifically, but, like, just thinking, like, personalities in general, like, we... as a society, feel like we need to be so careful with the words, and we had the conversation with telling the truth thing. Like, even that is coming to a point where people don't do that anymore because they are so afraid to hurt somebody's feelings. But like, there's no valor in being dishonest. Like, how did we have this like huge switch where honesty was so valued, and we tell our kids don't lie, and then
we fucking lie.
Like then they grow up to be adults because they see other people in their lives not being honest because why? Like, I'm afraid to hurt your feelings. I'm afraid to have conflict. Like
it's crazy because that's knocked out of a kid at a very young age. Don't say that, Timmy. You can't say that he's fat. No, the kid sees and the kid says it. That's it. I have no apology. I will not apologize. If I have children, I will not apologize for what they have to say. Unless it's something where, like, oh, that guy's face is really messed up, and, like, obviously, like, there's a reason. You know what I mean? But if he goes, whoa, blah, 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 it's really big, that person's really big, or whatever, like, okay, that's a fact, But obviously people with, I don't know, like Andy Frisella. He has that scar across his face because it got cut. Like, and eventually he overcame that. So, but also you may not know where that person's at with that.
Story.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. So you have to be careful with that. But as far as being overweight or other things, like, those are choices that you made. Like, so if a kid calls or says states black and white, then it just is what it is, and I I have no apologies for the kid saying things. So
kind of jumping back here quick, but what was that thing that Jesse Elder, not the alpha male, but like what, conscious male, or like what is that?
I don't know. I can't remember. But yeah, he's highly intelligent.
Because that made me think, because like the beta male thing, like looking at you specifically, like
I don't even
you
consider
are
myself an alpha.
right. That's why I'm kind of getting that.
Yeah.
Was like, but you're definitely not a beta. Like
no.
And so if it came to, which I think, like looking at the world right now, we are seeing some things happen right in the world that could like shake some people or could have some like real shit happen. And like how many of you, guys or girls, and I like fall in this like very comfortable domesticated like side of this, but like how many of you would be able to like fend for yourself or care for yourself
or
if some
shoot
shit
a man.
really hit the fan? Like if shit,
Yeah.
and so like look, like you for the, like again, like we probably aren't the most prepared, but we are more prepared than a lot of people. And like you specifically, like you'd be able to do some like savage stuff, like, and
if necessary, yeah.
right. And like there's, and so much of it goes back.
And
to,
you could also say like, you know, like you can, because for instance, like worst case scenario, you got to shoot somebody. You know, like I can say that I would have no remorse and have no problem with doing that. And of course, you could say, well, you don't really know until you're there. You know, which is a fair statement. But I'm very confident in my ability as far as like remorse and like, you know, right and wrong. As
and that
far
like
as,
that makes me think of like the violent piece, right? Like if it came to it and it was like your life or their life and it was for real happening, like that piece of violence in you would be necessary for you to still be here and to be like protecting me or whoever it was. Like if you don't have that piece, then you're screwed, and then your family's screwed because you're gone. So like, what good does that do?
And the way you get that is, and I have more compassion for animals, but you get that through killing stuff, honestly. You get that heart of
hunting.
And hunting and stuff. Like when I killed my first goose, you know, he fucking like whoo out of the air, but he wasn't completely dead. He was like, you know, flapping and stuff and trying to get away. And like watching that, like it kind of made my heart sink and I would feel bad. You know, I honestly did. I felt horrible. And my friend Donnie, we never had a discussion about this, but I feel like he could see like me and my heart sinking, and you know, he like knew where I was at, probably because he's been there. Mm-hmm. And so he walked over and fucking grabbed it and snapped its neck, just like that, and it was over right there, done.
And see, that's like a piece of like violence that like. So, like, if you're hunting for your food, like, that's necessary. Something needs to die for that to happen. But then even Donnie doing that, like, people may be like, oh, that's messed up, or oh my gosh, that's so ruthless. But, like, he was actually ending suffering of a being who was suffering. Yeah. So, like, actually, that's, like, the thing to do. Yeah, honorable,
Yeah, yep. So, in my opinion, hunters are very respectful. Most hunters are very respectful for the things that they kill. Like they try to make them not suffer. They try, you know, obviously there's people out there that are just fucking psychos and are douchebags, but you know, I'd say the majority of hunters are very well rounded as far as their compassion and stuff,
and they very much recognize like that like I'm killing this deer or this goose or this duck to feed my family. Like it's not like I'm just out there to kill shit. Like woohoo! Like no, I am doing this because then I can bring the meat home and put them in the freezer and provide.
And people would probably say, well, why do you have to go out and kill things? Because you can just go to the store and buy some. Well, you're domesticated.
Right. Like you are totally reliant on your grocery store. Which all of us are. Like so are we. Like we go to the grocery store too. We're not saying that that's. But, like, recognizing that, like, if that's the only way that you get your food and that's what you rely on, then if shit hits the fan, like, we are not immune to that. Yeah. Like, we think we are because things have been so good, but, like,
check out gas prices, motherfucker. $4.25 today.
Yeah.
It's $1 in a week.
What is that? Like, good times create weak, like, tough times create strong men. Good times create weak men. We have had it very good for our entire
because strong men create good times create weak men create hard times, and hard times create tough men. You know, and we're at a point where we've got a lot of I say beta males, but really just weak men, like fucking men that they're weak in their relationship because they let their wives or their girlfriends or whatever run their lives, and women run off of typically generalization are generally more emotional. So they do not make rational decisions as far as like a household. So that's why, in my opinion, men, as long as they're intelligent and step up, because there's plenty of other women that, you know, have stepped up because their fucking men are pussies.
I was going to say that, yeah, like there have been.
So there are exceptions, of course.
Or they don't have a man in the picture, and so this woman has to step in and do both roles.
Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with that, per se. And there's nothing wrong with even, I guess, technically a man, you know, wanting to be in that beta role, as long as his, you know, female companion is willing and is happy to be in the other thing. Otherwise, a man needs to step up and be a man, because it's just there's certain roles that, you know, and I'm gonna get fucking shot for this one. There's certain roles that men are, you know, that should be doing, and there's certain roles that a woman should be doing.
And I will say, for us, like in our household, we do fall more traditionally.
Yeah.
But like I'm okay with that. You're dope with that. Like we are totally on, and that's like.
And I'd say we're not even like hard traditional. We're like moderate traditional. I do my own laundry. I vacuum. Like I'm very useful as far as, you know, the things. You know, most like things. I just don't, for the most, cook and wash dishes. That's the only thing, like, you know, female role, you know, we do, that I really do.
Yes. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I guess, well, I mean, maybe it's more like, it's that you do more like the manly things. Like, you do the outside stuff. You do, like, when Bash brings home this thing that's still halfway alive, like, I've not yet been able to, like, kill that thing, like that. You come and do that, like.
And there you go.
You fix the thing.
And that's a perfect example of, like, as far as, like, me, I'm ending this thing's life. I just grab my gun, put a fucking bullet in its head, and it's over.
I know, it popped in my head when you brought up that earlier.
That's a, you know, and that's fine, you know, I mean, that's part of the feminine energy, I think, you know, the compassionate side. And my compassion, I have compassion as well. And we just had an interesting discussion on this with some friends, masculine and feminine energy. And, you know, like, that's your compassion. It's hard for you to kill things. You literally come in crying.
I was too, and I literally tried to pull the masculine, because I was like, me killing this thing right now is doing it a favor. Like, just sitting here crying, like, it's suffering. So I'm not doing any good to this thing. But like, I couldn't. I think
the gun jammed. You couldn't get it to kill.
Yeah, like twice. It literally did. Cause I was like, okay, I can do it. So I pulled the trigger freaking twice, and then I come inside, and I'm like, I tried. Like, gee, like that's a sign.
But anyways, that's you know, that's a perfect example about, you know, masculine and feminine energies in regards to our roles, right? So, you know, like, you're compassionate, you know, you have compassion for it in your way, and I have compassion my way. Like, I still feel bad when I'm putting a fucking bullet in its head. Like, I don't feel good about it, but it's like, this is what it needs to be done type of thing, you know? So, and that's just another example of, you know, I feel somebody needs to be able to do that shit. You know,
well, yeah, because it happens, right? Like, that literally happens.
Yeah,
so what if we're like, oh?
Ben told me a thing about Donnie. I gotta ask Donnie about it. But supposedly Donnie, like, somebody hit a deer, and then Donnie got out, and it was like still alive, but Donnie knew that it wasn't gonna be able to live. And he like fucking, I forgot what he did. He pulled something out of his thing. He didn't have a gun or a knife. He like strangled it to death, and it was like flopping around. And, like, Donnie just killed it. I'm like, dude, Donnie's a savage. Yeah, I don't know if I'm that savage enough to do something like that.
Oh my gosh, it kind of reminds me of I Am Legend when he has to kill a zombie dog.
Yeah, yep, exactly. Yeah, exactly. That's a perfect example. Like, that's real life, you know, it's real life shit. Like, you have to be able to do stuff like that. And, like, people are so domesticated because they don't see war, right? They don't see this stuff. They don't see the savage and brutal violence of nature, you know? And that's where we're domesticated. Like, just fucking entertainment in general. Like, we're seeing it on, you know, TV and whatever else, and we're not experiencing it, and it's not what they're showing on TV mostly isn't even compatible to like real life shit.
Like that book that you just mentioned, Viktor Frankl, right?
Yeah, Viktor Frankl, Man's Search for Meaning.
Like thinking about like the degree to like that is, and like what we see as a side, like we see Hollywood movie wars and we see this and that, but I think there's also
it was like, 70 years ago.
I also think to a degree that's like we're desensitized kind of because we
Yeah.
do see just so much of that. They're like, oh, we're just seeing another war movie. Oh, we're just seeing another kidnapping movie. Oh,
Yeah.
we're just seeing another.
Yeah.
And so, like, but like, yeah, if you take yourself out of that and like put yourself in like a real world situation, like
Yeah.
what are you gonna look like? Because just sitting on your couch and watching this movie, like you're not.
It's like Goggins talking about, yeah, you look
Yeah.
real good fucking climbing that hill until you get your ass out there, start
Yeah,
climbing.
it looks good while you're on the couch. Sounds
Yeah.
like a really good idea, and then you get out there and you're like, oh shit.
Personal experience.
Mm-hmm.
So, and this goes through and through. So every generation gets a slightly weaker. I can even see it in parenting. You know, parents are just getting softer and softer. Like your childhood is a perfect example. Your fucking childhood was soft.
Mm-hmm.
And my childhood, intentionally or unintentionally, both sides I believe, was intentionally hard and unintentionally hard. So therefore it made me a lot stronger to deal with real life. Like real shit, you know, like fucking, I was working at a young age. I was dealing with burying a dog at a young age. I dug the fucking holes, you know, I did that shit. And, you know, like, that's life. That's okay. Fucking, you know, it's part of life. And it's okay to be sensitive to those things, but you can't be,
debilitated.
Yeah. Debilitated, right?
Debilitated.
Debilitated. Whatever.
Yeah, like it can't, like...
It can't make you freeze up and, like,
take no
useless.
action.
It can't make you useless. Yeah, yep. So, me being able to do that, you know, learn to do that stuff at a young age, it, you know, made me very useful now. So, again, even technology is a perfect example of domestication. You know, like, everything is designed to domesticate you and make you a worthless, reliant animal. Like everything. The food, the entertainment, the way things work as far as like everybody was up in arms when the fucking schools closed. Oh my god, the government's not gonna take my kids and, you know, brainwash them for 8 hours a day? What are we gonna do? Oh my goodness, I have to deal with my kids. Oh my goodness, my husband's home. Oh man, this is awful.
Yeah.
Like what the fuck? What? I just don't understand it personally. Like, that's insane to me. So,
I just wanted to point out that documentary, Social Dilemma, on Netflix for the technology thing.
Never watched it.
Yeah, we did. The one that, like, I didn't watch it with you? I watched it. It's the one that, like, explains...
I know, social media and shit and how that all works, yeah.
Yeah, but I was just saying, so, like, if you haven't watched it, a lot of people did, but... That's a whole nother thing of like, well, that's really convenient to make this documentary, but still just like looking at like the phone technology specifically with social media and how that's used to like literally like zombify you basically.
Yeah, and the dopamine hits and the attention spans and shit like that. You know, like we used to not get dopamine hits, and now we get
so
dopamine
many
hits.
like
avenues.
There's
1,000 routes. Yeah, dopamine hits are. Yeah, back in the day, like how often would you know, thinking about like Little House on the Prairie, right? Like how many dopamine hits did you get? Like probably the only dopamine hits you get like is like playing with your animals or something, like or eating or you know something like that.
Like or it's like simple.
But now
like,
it's just like boom, boom, boom.
Even like simple, like okay, it's raining and we're playing in this puddle. Like that could be really fun and something that kids would do back in the day. And now it's like it's raining. I'm gonna sit inside on my phone and watch a movie. Like,
yeah, and that's a perfect example too. Like. Kids being domesticated at a early age, just like with the weather. Like I gave that example as far as, you know, like parents would be like, oh, my kids will just, you know, they'll go outside and they can play for hours without a coat, and it's crazy. And you have to wear a coat because you're going to get cold and you're going to get sick, which is a total myth, total bullshit lie, which we were lied to by probably the doctors or some idiot. You know, and then we believed it, and then we just passed it along. That's how it all works, you know. You got the government that decides the ADA bullshit as far as the doctor's administration, blah, blah, blah. And then association, I forgot what it's called. American Association. Yeah, exactly, yep. So then they have the thing, and they have your curriculum, right? They're, you know, just like the schools and the government, the curriculum. So they determine the curriculum, and they determine what you learn, and blah, 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 and it just goes right down the line. So the doctors are so stupid, they don't even know what they're teaching, like, or pushing. Like, they're just fucking pharmaceutical reps. They don't know any better. Your doctor is so stupid, he doesn't even know any better, and that's the problem. you know? And
Unless
then you
say
just
a good,
believe
like,
this
good one.
supposedly educated person. Well, yeah, he's educated in bullshit. Like, he's a pharmaceutical rep that's selling you poison, therefore poison you, and then you're going to have more problems, and you're going to have to go back and you're like, oh, now this is happening. And they're like, oh, well, that's just a side effect. Don't worry about it. We'll give you another pill. And then, you know, it's just fucking poison.
And I do want to, because we've had this conversation too, specifically with medicine, just because we're talking about it, but like there is a time and a place for it. Like we're not saying like you chopped your arm off, like man up, rub some like dirt on it, like you're fine.
Even
like,
pills and stuff, you know, like Norcos or...
There's a time and a place for those things.
Yeah.
Like if it's temporary and you gotta like get through this time with this pain reliever, like perfect, but like those things are not meant to be long-term solutions.
Yeah.
They were not meant to be, and they are not meant to be. But again, there's a time and a place for medicine in general, for sure. I want to go back to the kid in the coat thing because that, I think, like, where we've talked about it and what I think is important to mention is, like, if your kids can handle that, like, that's just, like, a sign of, like, your kid's fine, like, playing outside. They don't even, like, but as adults, like, so
we know
often,
better.
No, like, oh, it's so cold, oh, it's so this. And that makes me, was it Paul Check who talked about the, like, we live in climate-controlled everything. Yeah. Your office is climate-controlled, your house is climate-controlled, your car is climate-controlled. Like, we are never... very rarely putting ourselves in these like extreme conditions. We're just very comfortable. We keep it at the 70, at the 65, like whatever it is that you do, and that's like super comfortable, super reliant on the heat, super reliant on the AC, like
we've been domesticated to these things. Oh my god, like and this is an example of me being domesticated. My parents never had AC, like never, and I enjoyed just sitting there in the heat. Like I didn't mind it. Like I enjoyed sweating, I enjoyed being in the heat and whatever else. And you open a window and turn on a fan or whatever. Okay, cool. And then, and at first I didn't have a problem with it here, but then you being bougie as shit, like in your domesticated parent rental household / college household and everything else. We're not used to the heat.
Not college, but...
Yeah, college you had AC, didn't you?
Mm-mm.
Oh, really? I thought you did.
Maybe at Setter's Point. I don't even know if I did then, though.
Most of those places have AC. Anyways.
The point is, we move here.
Yeah, and I didn't have a problem with it. What's that?
I said, and I want the window unit.
Yeah, and then she wanted a window unit. And at first I said, I don't know. And then eventually we got one for free because your aunt. And I was like, well, we have it. That's fine. Because I wasn't going out and spending, $100 on one at the time. I was just like, screw that. I don't care about AC. It doesn't matter. And then you got that free one. And then you started using it. And now I've been fucking domesticated.
Now he's a pansy.
Yeah. And now I don't like the heat. And I can, but it's something I'm aware of and it's something I recognize. Like, now I'm a pussy when it comes to the heat in my own house or whatever. And that's the first step, though. Like, and I knew I got pussyfied because of it.
You did the opposite way for me because I used to, like, put on a sweater. Like, and now we have the heat at, like, 72, 73.
I've always liked it hot in the winter, though.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I never used to be that way.
Gotcha.
Like, I'd be like, turn it down, put on a sweater, like, whatever. And then now I'm like... It's cold. It's 70 in here. Hold on.
I don't think that thing works right though. Dude, it's like fucking. It says like 75 degrees, and I'm like, dude, I am freezing. What's wrong with this thing?
Oh yeah, just back to really quick to like your body's like over a period of time, like when you do climate control all the time, 24/7, like your body loses its ability to be able to regulate like that because it never has to. Yeah. It's always comfy. It's good to go. So like. Again, shit hits the fan, and for whatever reason, the electrical grid's out, and it's the middle of winter, and we all lose our heat. Like, our bodies are going to be like in shock.
Yeah, your autoatomic immune system is basically garbage. And like, because if you think about it, like 200 years ago, you didn't have any of this crap. You didn't have furnaces and all this jazz. The Indians just fucking lived in their huts, and they, the way they got out of. They got cooler is by taking off their shirt or dipping in a pond or something, Like, there was no AC, there was no heat. It was either warm or it was cold. And, you dealt with either one. And now, we've been so, again, domesticated. Like, we have to have this. And it's funny because, like, people get all upset when the power goes out. And I'm usually, again, I'm annoyed when it goes out in the summer when I'm sleeping. That's the only time that it really pisses me off because it's so fucking hot. And I'm just like, dude, I can't sleep. you know, and again, domesticated. So, yeah, and there's probably 1,000 different things, you know. Like if you just think about like an animal and how it's domesticated, like your dog or your cat or whatever else, and you look at the parallels to what's happening in your own life, you know, like even governmental handouts and all that shit, like those are fucking buying your domestication. You know, they want you to be slaves. They don't want you to be a free-thinking, strong-willed individual. You know, that they're not easy to be controlled. But if you got fucking Kevin and Karen out there wearing their masks and, you know, all this other shit, eating Fritos and Cheetos and McDonald's and stuff like that, and they're overweight and they're working a fucking job because, you know, a job that they hate because they're too afraid and fearful to, you know, go out on their own and do something that they actually want to do because that's what all their friends do and that's where all my friends work, and, you know, like it's insane. So I can always see it I have a real problem with domesticated people. Like I'm just like, oh fuck, so dumb. And granted, I'm domesticated in plenty of my own ways, right. But you know, and that's why I'm just like, dude, if I'm this domesticated and you're that domesticated, like, and I got a problem with my domestications, you know? So, just, yeah, I don't know. Wake up. That's all I'm saying is, like, pay the fuck attention and, you know, start checking it out because, especially if you have children, you're screwing them. You're going to make them weak, pathetic, worthless pieces of society.
I feel like my tagline always comes down to, like, now you know. So, like, if you know better, you do better. And
yeah.
So, having, like, that information and...
I find it so hard not to, like... I guess to a degree, because there's a lot of things that I don't know, but I'm just like, dude, it's so blatantly obvious. Like, look at the TV and, like, you know, shit like that. And, like, look at McDonald's and, like, look at yourself. Look at yourself in the mirror. And you're just like...
looking at, like, the brainwashing period, though, and, like, the indoctrination, like...
Yeah.
That makes sense to me.
Yeah, I guess, because, you know, it's just a blind spot, and then... You know, obviously, if you start going the opposite way society's going, you don't, you know, subconsciously and consciously, you don't necessarily want
or even
to...
smaller. Like, if you start questioning those things and your wife is still very much, like, even that can be a deterrent. I'm just saying, like, society, yes, but even just looking at your own circle, like, if you start being the odd one out.
Yeah.
But it's so worth it in this, like...
Yeah, I don't have a problem being an odd one out, personally.
We all know that. You are awesome. You love to be the outlier.
Yeah, I like being the outlier.
I know you do.
Know?
But not everybody, again, comes from that space, and so...
Not everybody's got the balls to do it.
I can recognize that I can have, like, compassion or whatever for, like, the people that think it might be hard. Even if they're to that point, like, again, the awareness comes first.
But it goes back to choose your hard. Like, I can either choose the hard of being, you know, a free-thinking, uncontrolled, self-reliant individual, or I can choose the hard of being reliant on the government. You get hard one way or the other, yeah. Yeah, yep. So
and this one, I think, like,
more freeing.
The hard this way is, like, not as, like, drawn out and not as, like... Because, like, when you have the hard the other way, basically, if you're not choosing to challenge any of that, your life is hard the whole way through.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, sometimes it's hard now, sure, to, like, do the hard thing or whatever, but it's like shorter little bursts of it. I don't know.
Yeah, and they're always different. The other one's mundane. Like, you always have the same financial problems, the same weight problems, the same, you know, mental problems, and then, like, these, like, you go up and down. Like, you're just like, anxiety to the extreme, and then, like, you know, maybe some people, depression to the extreme, and then... You know, like, oh, my body is so fucked up, and then you go from, I'm so mentally drained. You know, it's always something different. So, yeah, fuck. I hope we hit everything because I don't know if that's always gonna happen, but I always go through these and go through my head. And I'm like, oh, I should have said that. Oh, that was such a great point. Blah blah blah.
Well, those are things to write down after. I've come back like
and been like, but.
It's not the same clearly because we're not in the flow of the conversation, but if it's something worth noting, like...
Yeah. So, let's go. Let's go through my head as far as the life of an individual. So you get domesticated as a young child because, you know, your parents screw you and send you to school, and then you are completely brainwashed there, and then you're even more so brainwashed that you're willing to spend thousands of dollars in college, and then you get a shitty job that you hate, or just, you know, tolerate because you don't really know what you want to do. Which I'll say, I don't even want. No one really. There's a lot of people that don't know what they want to do. Like you're not the only one. Like just because there's someone that's successful in something doesn't mean that they actually want to do it or they like it or whatever else.
Mm-hmm.
And the only way you can figure out, unless you're very spiritually in touch with yourself, to figure out what you want to do is to go out and try shit. Be a painter, be a carpenter, be, a therapist, or, do therapist things or whatever else. Go try shit,
And listen to episode number 1 where we talk about trying new things.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, and then you live your whole life in a shitty marriage, shitty job.
Climate controlled everything.
Climate controlled everything. Relying on food that is totally trash for you. And then, shit may or may not hit the fan, and then you're screwed because you're so reliant on people. And so reliant on the government and everything else. Yeah, and systems. So, yeah, and then, again, the parallels with the animals, like, if you look at them and stuff, and so, yeah.
Even just nature specifically, like, again, talking about the wind or natural disasters, like,
yeah,
super violent and, like...
I love that Sean pointed that out. I don't know if he got that from Jesse or what, but I'm like, dude, that is so epic, because nature is violent. Tsunamis, tornadoes, fires... how a pack of fucking coyotes rip up an animal.
Like circle of life type stuff. Like, even our cat, like that rat, mouse
kills
thing
everything. Yeah.
Like, that's in its nature.
Yeah. And even torturing is in its nature.
For our cat, yeah.
Like, dude.
Not as much, I don't think. And I don't know, we don't see it all, but...
He, lets it go, and then he runs and bats it around. He, lets it go, and it gets, a decent away, then he attacks and gets it.
Oh, yeah.
It was just shitty, but, that's nature. If you feel bad, and you're just like, dude, if we weren't here, that's how it would be, We're trying to have our pretty fucking lawns, which is such a stupid concept in general, and, fancy cars and everything else, and I'm just like, dude, I'll beat your ass.
I think too, to go through my head, I think we touched base a little bit on different buckets of life, like health and family and as far as domestication.
Yeah, I'm gonna so I remember on that trip that we watched that video or whatever, and then I got that idea.
Oh yeah.
Body, business, spirit, mind. Yeah.
Body, business, spirit, mind.
Yeah. I'm going to do something with that someday. Maybe soon. Who knows? Like a coaching thing. Sean does power, passion, purpose, and production, which flows way better.
It does. It's so good.
Yeah. But I haven't come up with anything. Whoa.
Yeah, schedule some think time. Maybe something will come.
Yeah, for sure. My meditation. Yeah, and meditation is probably a savage thing to do too, in my opinion. Which people think that it's so foo-foo or lame or gay or whatever else, and it's a savage thing because you have to control your mind and
be with your mind.
Yeah,
that can be a very scary place.
Yeah, I never understand that, but I guess if you lie to yourself all the time.
Well, I think depending on what thoughts you have running through your head, if you're in a super anxious space, sitting with yourself and that's not pleasant.
Yeah.
Or, people have some, obviously, way deeper stuff. But even just, if you lie and, if you still have that, intuition voice that's,
so.
It can just be hard.
Cool. Well, don't get fucking domesticated. Be a savage. We're all just animals at this, no matter how you want to look at it. You can slap clothes and makeup and everything else on us, which I encourage the makeup for a lot of people. I gotta do my hair. Don't. I'm not.
Yeah,
I'm not critical one way. I'm critical both ways. I ain't so pretty that I can not do my hair. I gotta do my hair. So, and some people gotta put makeup on. It's just the way things are. But don't let that get in the way of the rest of your life, as far as just not specifically those things, but the domestication. The domestication of these things, because we're all just animals, and we can think we're all great and whatever else, but we're not, you know. And
then I think the question too is just like, what are you gonna do when
yeah,
you find yourself in a situation where that matters? Because
yeah, you know,
you likely will in your lifetime.
Yeah.
In one way, shape, or form.
Whether it's a pack of coyotes trying to tear you up, or you having to bury your animal, or
Right.
whatever else, you know.
Or your nation's at war, like.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. Fucking, they're about to see what's up. So, you know, they're. I hope they're not completely domesticated as far as, you know. Well, I guess. Yeah, I'm very like torn on what's going on.
Well, yeah, I just mean
there.
in general though, they're finding that they are gonna. They are a lot of them are finding themselves in the situation of like life or death stuff.
If you need to fight, you better be prepared to fight, basically. So, and domesticated people aren't typically ready to fight. They're very submissive, and yeah. So
comfortable.
Yeah. Yep. That's what it's all about. Get everybody fat, happy, and happy and comfortable. So, and then they won't challenge you, and they'll just accept. So, all right, cool. I think that's it for this episode. Go like us on YouTube and podcast player. Follow us, subscribe, hit the bell, make comments. Yeah, and let us know what you think. Your thoughts. Are we being domesticated? Am I totally wrong and crazy, or does this actually have some weight to it? What were you about to say?
Validity.
There we go. So yeah, cool. I think that's it. So
thanks for being here.
Yep. Sorry I didn't wear my shirt so you could see the awesome shirts that we made. But you saw it last week, and if you didn't see it last week, go back and check it out. So.
For sure.
God, I'm glad that I don't watch these things.
All right, y'all. Thank you for being here, and we'll catch you in the next one.
See ya.